Hi everyone and welcome. In this recording, I'm going to be speaking about this upcoming new moon taking place in the sign of Aquarius on the 31st of January or 1st of February, depending on where you are on the planet. And this is one of the rather tensionate and more harder to process energies because on one hand it is a new moon, so it's a new beginning, it's the energy of creation, planting seeds of intention, etc. Yet we have to take into consideration that Aquarius is a very highlighted energy and has been so ever since 2020. This is where the great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter took place. So that's really activated the energy and symbolism and expression of this sign long term. So for the next 20 years. Also right now it is Aquarius who is hosting its ancient ruling planet Saturn. So this already represents that this area of life and this part of the sky, collectively speaking, so this is where the Saturnian expression, so very long-term, down-to-earth business, our duty to ourselves, karmic duty to other people, duty to society, duty to the world, and of course not just individually but collectively speaking as well, is greatly emphasized. So whatever takes place in Aquarius, well, that is where the universe means business. And naturally, the ancient ruling planet of Aquarius, Saturn, as I said, is conversing in tension with the modern ruling planet, Uranus. So that means out with the old and the old structures, the way things used to be until now. And of course, in with the new, like it or not. This is where we have to make that quantum leap, specific to Uranus in Taurus. Because basically that is the only way to make this square work for us personally. We all have to find our Uranian expression, what is unique, what is distinctive about us, and basically bring it to the table, embody it, use it, and also build a longer term future based on that. That is basically the symbolism of Taurus. But of course, whenever Uranus is traversing through this part of the sky, the energy is very turbulent, it is very heavy, it is not easy. It symbolizes earthquake physically, and we had a lot of those. And the symbolism of the earthquake is very relevant, psychologically, spiritually, everything that has to do with our values, self-worth, for example, what it is, who it is that we love. What kind of future, materially speaking, are we comfortable of living, embodying, working with? And naturally Saturn, the limitations, the obstacles, that which we have to overcome. How are we going to achieve this? Because Saturn in the sign of Aquarius speaks about the power of the mind and intelligence. Right now, we have to rely on our intelligence, our cerebral activities, our ingenuity to overcome our limitations. Right now, that is our biggest resource. And everything that symbolizes Aquarius, for example, internet, interhuman relationship, our friends, our circle of friends, our social connections. And this is where the distance doesn't matter. Aquarius is digital age, so it can be basically anywhere in the world physically, as long as we have that sense of belonging, as long as something connects us to our place in the world or place in society, our connection to other people. So that is basically where we have to try and find the way to overcome the limitations and everything that represents the more negative side of Saturn, the way things always used to be. So everything that has been imprisoning us, so to speak, everything of the norm, of the traditional that has been going against our greater good. This is the time to change that, to overcome that, to, let's say, demolish the big wall. And the reason I'm speaking about all of this, Well, this new moon is definitely going to activate these energies within us, within our minds, or of course, depending on where 12 degrees of Aquarius falls in your own personal chart, that area of life. Now, as I said, new moon is always new beginning, but this new beginning is a little bit special than usual because this new moon, the conjunction, the meeting of the sun and moon in the sky, the darkness of the new moon, so to speak, is very, very close to Saturn. It holds a conjunction. Saturn is at 15 degrees of Aquarius, while the sun and moon at 12 degrees. So that is perfectly operational. This Saturn and this Saturnian energy is immediately speaking to us, advising us, almost asking us whatever new beginning that we desire to accomplish. Because after all, Aquarius is also our long-term future, our retirement, our hopes and dreams, that which we wish to accomplish and be part of long-term. So that has to align with the values of Saturn. It has to be extremely realistic. It has to be down to earth. It has to be operational and functional in the sense of practicality. Aquarius is very practical. It is very scientific, empirical. It is hopeful. It is very optimistic, of course. But the Uranian expression of that, an optimism or a hopefulness, which is rooted in physical reality. Saturn can also symbolize a person in our lives, old or new, who has a lot of life experience, professional experience or wisdom, someone who is very, very good at something, the teacher, the mentor, the way shower archetype, who may help us a great deal, align us to that which is, as I said, applicable and palpable in physical reality. It can mean an advice, it can mean having to learn something practically, a course or any kind of study, a new study, for example. It is something that requires sacrifice, something that requires investment of time, but at the same time it is also psychological energy, that which helps us embody our strength, our dignity, our own Saturnian expression, that which we learned to master or that which we want to work with. So one of the ways this new moon can manifest in our lives, especially if we add a lot of intention and energy to it, is someone popping up. As I said, it can be someone old, someone we used to know, an old teacher, an old mentor, an old advice giver, or someone who we practically look up to, someone who we admire, or someone new who will take this position, this role in our lives. Aquarius is friendship, Aquarius is social connections, people on the internet. It can even be a professional, someone who is recommended to you, who is definitely going to inspire you or teach you, mentor you, guide you, give you a very palpable and practical Saturnian lesson how to succeed or how to get where you want. Now, of course, this isn't as simple as that, because we have a square with Uranus, and the square to Uranus that this new moon holds, but at the same time Saturn as well. This new moon is at 12 degrees of Aquarius, while Uranus is at almost 11 degrees of Taurus. So that is very, very functional, that is very activated. And whenever Uranus touches another celestial conversation through a square aspect, well, that means the unexpected, that means inconveniences, that means a kind of truth coming out that we must not and cannot ignore, something that really, really raises awareness. So to me, this speaks about an urgency, a crisis, an urgent need to accomplish breakthrough. For example, getting a job, getting another job, getting an extra source of income, becoming aware, because all of this is Taurus energy, Uranus in Taurus, right? So some of us are going to be aware, or made to become aware, better said, that we will not have money, we will not have sponsorship, finances. We are in for imminent poverty if we don't do something very, very quickly. And that is either make a compromise and get another job, or simply step up our game in the activities that we are doing right now and add something very innovative, very brave, very unusual, very self-expressive in order to add value to it, because without that, chances are we're not gonna make it. So this also highlights the other side of Saturn, where yes, of course, the teacher, the mentor that needs to show us the way, but at the same time, Saturn also represents our old knowledge, our own personal old routines, even personal traditions, personal structures, especially in our modus operandi way of thinking, how we used to go about things through our social connections or anything that, symbolizes Aquarius for you personally. And those need to be shattered. We also need to get to the awareness. We're not in the 90s, for example, anymore. We're not in the 2000s. We have to adapt ourselves into the new way of doing things. Some things, even though they were like the best possible idea just a few years ago and they got us 100% where we needed to get, those will not work right now. We live already in different times, different even customs, traditions arising. We live in a different kind of normality where the rules, especially the unwritten rules, the unconventional rules of the game have already changed massively. So we need to adapt to that. And maybe whatever new beginning this new moon can create and conjure up for us, well, first it comes in our life as an eye-opener, as a small moment of crisis, or who knows, maybe an unexpected communication telling us that we need to embrace the more modern, the more, let's say, trendy way of approaching things, because if we do not get out of our comfort zones, if we do not choose adaptation as hard as it is, because this isn't the Gemini Pisces kind of adaptation where we just snap our fingers and we're already in survival mode, let's say. This is fixed energy. Aquarius is fixed air, Taurus is fixed earth, so this is the most uncomfortable kind of adaptation, where Saturn, maybe it is that we need to denounce our own ideals, our own principles, our own faith. It's hard because this is where we have to kind of put the knife in our own bodies and going straight to the bone. We have to operate on ourselves, if that makes sense, of course, symbolically speaking. Operate with our mindset, our modus operandi, another kind of reality check of where it is that we actually stand in society based on our values or our material condition, for example. And this isn't just, spiritual or symbolic, this is like real. You have the money or not? How much is your income compared to other people? What chances do you get? Do you have friends in high places? Do you have all the relevant social connections to get you there? And if the answer is no, well, the only possible means to conjure up this new beginning, of course, is to tap into our ingenuity, our inner genius, and just brainstorm something. But of course, there is good news as well, because even though the following planets that I'm going to be speaking about do not hold a conversation directly with the new moon, yet still there is a really strong trine in the sky where Venus direct at this time, so she already went direct, she's already going through her shadow path, so that means solutions. Venus is the lower benefic, so she bestows some kind of blessing, passion, love, sensuality, so we are getting back on track. And she holds a harmonious celestial conversation with Uranus, so Uranus may be in tension with this new moon, but he is in perfect harmony with the ruling planet of the sign which hosts him, Venus. So that can mean surprises, delightful moments of the best kind, where maybe it is that Venus-Uranus conversation that gives us a big boost. Yes, we may have the crisis and the awareness hand in hand with this new moon, but we can also have an unexpected solution already in our hands. A supporter, an admirer, Venus, something that really, really sparks our passion out of nowhere, and it just gives us power. It gives us a new sense of direction. It can be any kind of financial reward, lucky opportunity, gains of any kind, where someone wants to invest into us, and that makes it all that much easier, let's say financially. The hard part may be mustering enough courage to step out of our comfort zones and try something totally new that we have never done before. And new is definitely the key word here, because the new moon converses with Uranus intention, and Uranus is like the sleigh driver. If it's not new, if it's not, let's say, your own revolutionary act, well, it is gonna reject it. So no, until you come up with that perfectly chaotic, brave, ingenious idea that will get you exactly where you need to be. And it may not be necessarily just an idea, it can be a person, it can be a new social connection, a new plan, new project, new business, but it can come to you in very, very surprising, unexpected manners. And of course, with the Saturn and Uranus square, chances are that your life in a very physical, down-to-earth way will be in that phase where you need something new desperately, so you will not be able to be choosy or picky, you will just take what it comes. Also, at the same time, another conversation which doesn't touch the new moon, so to speak, but the symbolism and the energy is very relevant. Mercury is conjunct Pluto, not tight and perfect conjunction. Mercury is at 24 degrees and Pluto is at 26, almost 27. But Mercury is already slowing down because on the 3rd it will go direct. So that means very relevant news, communication, even contemplation, even a kind of reality check that you perform from a mental perspective to gather your thoughts, your ideas, your plans, your resources, your possibility. After all, it's Pluto, so financial power, or where it is that you have a choice in your life. How can you take the steering wheel of your own ship and help yourself get there? That can also mean negotiations, contracts, people returning from the past and putting something on the table for you to look at, analyze, maybe a choice you have to make. It can mean unexpected travel plans, unexpected invitations. And also, this Mercury at 24 degrees of Capricorn converses in tension, perfected square with planetoid Eris in the sign of Aries, so it's not a very favorable energy. Collectively speaking, because that means tensions in the world stage, that means cybernetic warfare, that means informational and mediatic war. So the external environment is going to be very, very turbulent, and words, communication, news, fake news, manipulative news. Pluto, after all, is going to be the main weapon, and that's going to be the big gun firing non-stop at this time. So whatever is going on out there may frighten us, and it may simply unsettle us, because whatever external reality will show us is that, well, we're not really safe regardless of what we do with our personal lives, regardless of what choice we make. But at the same time, this is where we have to detach. We have to still focus on ourselves. We still have to basically live our own stories without allowing whatever is out there to frighten us or to cause this state of anxiety that we are totally lost and helpless. Now, collectively speaking, of course, this is a very tense energy with Uranus. This is actually a revolutionary energy where I imagine that in some parts of the world, this is where they will attempt to overthrow governments. Saturn in Aquarius the power of the people, equality, liberty, everything that was basically the slogan and symbolism of the French Revolution. That is almost like going to be playing out somewhere in the world, in some culture, in some country, in other places, or in a more collective global expression. This is all about rules and regulations. This is where there is going to be a big cry out to respect human rights, the basic human rights, and also those rights and those principles, those moral agreements which create the whole international law. In some countries, in some parts of the world, certain rules and regulations, Saturn and Aquarius, are going to be extraordinarily restrictive and quite come through as a misuse of power, as tyranny. While other parts in the world, ironically, this is the dichotomic expression of Aquarius, where it can exist as a perfect contradiction. It will be the opposite, where they will delete the rules and the regulations, and people will be suddenly, perhaps unexpectedly, invited to go back to the old way of life as if COVID didn't even exist. But of course, everything changed, so no one will be able to go back to the same normality, and this is exactly the chaotic expression of Uranus. What happens now? What do people do when the two expressions of liberty and restriction coexist at the same time on the same planet, just that in different parts of the world the different extreme is highlighted, embodied, and enacted? But of course, from both planets, Uranus is the stronger one, so chances are the Uranian expression will triumph. In those parts of the world where the rules are going to be enforced, this can also represent law enforcement. Mars is in the sign of Capricorn in exaltation, and Mars means business there. And business is, also the government, because that is the symbolism of Capricorn. But at the same time, Uranus and the power of the people, they will clash. And regardless of the outcome, at the end, it is still Uranus who's going to triumph one way or another. Of course, not immediately, but the sphere of manifestation of a new moon is 6 months, so there is a lot of time where perhaps in 6 months' time, the political stage, the political configuration, both internally and externally, is going to look so very different than it is right now. Now, from a more strictly spiritual perspective, this is not really a bad configuration. Yes, it's tensionate, yes, it's also Saturnian, down-to-earth business, but what is the specific of Uranus and all of Aquarius? Well, it is the Cartesian split. I think, therefore I am, and Uranus activates this energy a lot. Uranus is the higher mind. Uranus is also, from a physical perspective, that part of the brain which we may not be able to even control or know what it does yet. It is that which is under a shroud of mystery to our understanding, yet that doesn't mean that there isn't power there or that it isn't functional. So whenever Uranus converses with the sun and moon, light of our consciousness and our emotional world in one place, the new moon of course, well, that can represent an epiphany, a divine download, a connection, an unexpected connection with exactly that part of us, the higher mind, which may come suddenly, but it can be a massive game changer, because it can snap us out of lethargy or a certain procrastination, passivity immediately. It can just reflect a truth to us that maybe we have not been able to see in any other way, despite inner work, contemplation, meditation, or even using substances, etc. A detail, something important about us that just has eluded us over and over and over again, and under such a square that can just be handed down on a silver tray. And again, I have to go back to the example I always use with Uranus. Well, if we look back at how the periodic table was created and put into the shape and form it has today, well, it was the Russian scientist Mendeleev who tried and tried and tried over and over again. He had everything figured out, but the structure, the very form, Saturn, of how he should display it, as in physically to make sense to everyone, not just to him, that eluded him until one night where his unconscious just showed that to him in a dream. He woke up, there it was. He immediately put it together, and we have the periodic table today. He needed that extra push from his higher mind, of course, to put the puzzle together and to behold the big picture. So we can expect a moment such as this one to take place in our lives one way or another. And finally, last word of warning. Now, this conversation with such a powerful Uranus, because Uranus is already direct, and also because the Sun and Moon are quite close to Saturn, this can represent a cyber attack or any kind of violent or terrorist kind of activity, but online, on the internet, regarding information, data, everything like that. And it may target big banks, international banks, or even sometimes governments. We also have the Pluto and Mercury meeting, and it is also squared by Eris. So this might be one of the ways this new moon energy plays out in the world stage immediately. So again, I advise everyone to be very careful with certain links and emails that are suspicious and dodgy, even though this might not target small people, like individuals, but it aims for, big banks and financial institutions, etc. But one way of accomplishing this is by targeting their customers, targeting their clients. So if you see anything suspicious, be careful, don't click on links, and if you see impersonators and stuff like that, just do your job and report or whatever it is that you can do. And like always with every single new moon, do not forget to put your seed of intention into the universe and focus on whatever new you would like to have in your life. Of course, in that area of your life where this 12 degrees of Aquarius falls into. But additionally, you can just use the collective, the general symbolism of Aquarius, which is society, interhuman connections, internet, people, and of course your own distinctiveness and uniqueness. So this is a really, really good energy to attract new friends, new connections, new people who you share something in common with, even if those people, the symbolism of Uranus, might be very, very unusual, but this is where you have to give them a chance, because you can never know where it guides you, where it leads you, and how those new people, as extraordinary, as unusual as they may be, can, influence your life story. And especially those who are really, really in need of a big life change, a life breakthrough, a leap of faith, sudden change where you just end your old normality and begin anew, and you just need to have that one chance, that one opportunity, that one, lifeboat from the universe, this one's time to suddenly, quickly give you the change that you need. This energy can work very, very well, as long as if you accept the discomfort and the risks that go with it. Because after all, Saturn is under heavy assault from Uranus. And also take into consideration that shortly after this new moon, in a few days, Saturn will meet with the Sun, and that is always a pretty hard energy, a massive reality check, and also a kind of stock take once every year, of course, where the karmic forces in our lives, the universe, or our friends, other people, reflect back at us. They show us where it is exactly that we stand in our lives right now based on whatever we have done the past year or the past couple of years. And even if we may find it a little bit uncomfortable to make that leap of faith, etc., because sometimes when we get what we wished for, when it is handed down to us, we cower away a little bit and second think, oh, do I really want this? Am I really gonna do this? Well, if you might be feeling this, the Saturn and Sun conjunction later on in a few days after this new moon might be all the motivation that you need, that, yeah, I'm definitely gonna do this. So thank you so much for listening, thank you for being here, and thank you for making me a small part of your journeys. I wish everyone a blessed and truly empowered new moon. Until next time, bye for now.